Hey guys, my name is Phoebe Nobisi, and in this video, I will walk you through my Rack app. That is a ministry app that supports 6 languages, and I will show you in the command line the process. Yes, how does it work when you ask the question till the response. I will show you every details, the relevant filtering, and also how we do the duplication, and also how we take the top rank items candidate. Let's get started. Let me show you first the app. So when you run Streamlight, it opens the app. You have to log in. I already logged in. I can ask a question. I will say, what should I know about prayer, for example? So when you ask that, we are doing the search behind the scene to our own document from the church. You can see that we have indexed some document here. There's a process of ingestion of document that happens in the background where document has been indexed per content type. You have sermons that has 6 chunks in the collection, the ChromaDB database, vector database that we have. We have the content type prayer guide that has 4 chunks. We have the frequently asked questions that has 15 chunks. We have Bible reference that has 28 chunks. We have announcement that has 6 chunks. And then this is the search that is happening, and I will show you once it puts the answer how it works in the background. While it's doing that, let's go to Chrome. This is our vector database. This is our ChromaDB dashboard. We had to run ChromaDB admin. If you don't know how to get this, I have a previous video that talks about ChromaDB. Get to that video, and then I will refresh here. You select the database. We use the default database, and then I will take the ministry docs collection. That's what we have. I can see that we have 59 records. Yes, so that means 59 chunks, and that's how the items are here. If you select one of those, you can see every chunk. For example, this is one chunk here, and we have some metadata, the date, the content type that I showed you, the source, the title, the page number, the chunk index number, and the content hash. Yes, it's hashed with SHA 256. Yeah, and if we want to see the embeddings, we'll just have to reset this and click again. We see the chunk item, and then these are the embeddings. We use the default embedding model of ChromaDB, that is all mini LM L6v2. Yes, that's the name. And it uses a vector dimension of 384. So all chunks are having the dimension 384. That's what it is. And it's just a list of numbers. As you can see here, it's a list of numbers. This is the first number. That's the representation of this chunk, and that's the last number here. And of course, we have the metadata. So let's come back to Edge. We have the result. It says from source 1, that is Philippians 4:6. We know that prayer is a key aspect of our relationship with God. It's about bringing our requests to Him in thanksgiving, and He promises to give us peace that transcends all understanding. And the source 2 suggests that prayer should be a regular part of our lives, especially during the 21 days prayer guide. Each day has a theme, scripture, guided prayer, and space for recording your own prayer requests. It's also mentioned in source 3 that God draws near to us. When we draw near to Him, it implies that prayer is an act of surrender. And then we have the sources here. So you can see that the sources are coming from Prayer Guys 21 Day, basically. So now let's go to VS Code and we will run it to see exactly how does it work in the background. So I have a file here under my script folder that is called rack inspect. I've asked Claude Code, my best friend, to build me a file that will show me all the steps from connecting to the ChromaDB and from grabbing all the candidates and all the relevant chunks and then filtering the overlapping ones, because remember in the settings I've shown that in the last video, we have each chunk has 1,000 character and there's overlapping of 200 character. That means like at least maybe one sentence to two sentences are repeating each other on one chunk and the next chunk index. So to not have duplicate in answers that the rack applications give back to us in the pipeline, we use what is called the duplication, where we see in the result that the ChromaDB search index bring back to us, we compare the first chunk that we have taken, we have accepted, and we compare it to the next one and to see the similarity in sentences if they have many characters, about 0.92, so 92%. So if they have that in common, those amount of character, we will pass that one, we will pass the next one, so that we will not have the same sentences that are repeating. So I will type the question here. I will say, what should I know? Yeah, since I had that question before, it has auto-populated. So what we have here, we have NumPy. NumPy is a library. NumPy. My first language is French, so bear with me with the pronunciation. NumPy is a library that handles array and work with large amounts of data. And of course, we have ChromaDB embedding function. We use a default embedded function that is all mini LMS6 v2. And then we have the ChromaPad is here, data, and then ChromaDB. And then the collection name that we have is Ministry Doc. I showed you in the ChromaDB admin. This is the text that we want to search through our local document. The threshold is 1.4. How do we find the 1.4? 1.4 is about the distance between the embeddings number of the query text and the embeddings number of the chunks that are inside our databases. So the sum of the difference square of those numbers, it gives us the threshold distance. And we have made a eval retrieval where we have taken some items that we know that they are inside our document, like anxiety, forgiveness, hope, and we have other items that are not inside it, like car engine repair, stock market forecast, and we have compared the distance. We have seen that from distance 1.4 and up, they are not relevant. They are irrelevant result because it's not the context of the document. That's why we had that 1.4 threshold. And each time we run this script, it will give us a new threshold with the new document that we import inside the app. So that gives us this 1.4 threshold distance. And then the top K is just the amount of chunks that we want to have at the end of our process. The near duplicate ratio here is 0.92, is where I told you about the overlapping of the chunks. We want to check that if they have in common, about 92% of similarity in the character count, the chunk like 1 and chunk 2 in the result when we query this query text inside the ChromaDB index search. We eliminate it. It's part of our criteria. Yes. So this is the duplication. This is a duplication function. The first function normalize, it just it just put the text in lowercase and it remove spaces. That's why you see strip and lower. And the other one is the one that check if they are near duplicate and then remove it. Yes. So now step 0 is where we connect to the ChromaDB. We use a persistent client. Yes, because we want the database to be unique. We don't want to create many database as much as we do the ingestion of document. If you don't know what is ingestion, I've made a video about that, but I will define it really quick. Ingestion of document is the process of taking the document that are raw data and putting in a form that can be used by AI. So we take the document, we extract the text, and then we split it in chunks, and then those chunks we have their embeddings correspondent. We attach to them some metadata like the content type. In our case, content type are prayer requests, prayer guides, sermons, frequently asked questions, announcement. And then we have among the metadata of chunks, we also have the title, we have the page number, we have the date, and stuff like that that we define. Maybe the chatbot use, when do we need to use that, like the theme classification, what maybe themes are classified for this chunk, those type of stuff. So what we do, we connect to ChromaDB, that is the persistent client, and then we get the collection. Here on Chrome, this is our collection. Ministry doc, that's our collection, and you see that we have 59 record and we use the default database. Now after that, we use the default embedding function that I've mentioned, that is all mini lm l6v2 for ChromaDB, and then we count the collection number is 59 in our case. The chroma part is data ChromaDB. We have defined it here at the start. We just use that variable, and then what we do is that we embed the question. For example, the question that we have here is, what should I know about prayer? We embed that question. When we embed that question, this is it. We use NumPy in terms of array, and then we take the embedding. We use the default function, the default embedding function of ChromaDB, and we take the first result of that array. That gives us the vectorization of our question. And then we take the mean, we display the minimum value, like the least value of the vector's number, because it's an array of numbers. That's called vector. So we take the minimum and we put it in the terms of a floating point of 4 numbers, and then we display also the maximum, and then the average, and then the vector norm, and then we display also the first 10 values. That's just for you to see. We can display up to 384. I've shown you here that the embedding model that we use here, that is all mini LML6 v2, it has a vector dimension of 384, so it's 384 numbers, as you can see here. Here is displayed at six floating point, but in our case, in VS Code, in our script, we will display just 4. And then we query CommaDB for similarity search, and we take 12 of those responses. 12 of the most relevant responses. We use collection, the collection that we have that is ministry docs. We make a query, we put the embedding of the query text, and then we have the result. We take the document, relevant document, their metadata, and the distances. The distance that I showed you is the squared L2 distances. That is the sum of the differences between each individual items, each individual numbers of the vector embedding of each chunk. So we take each one for the question, that is 384, and each of them we do minus, we do the subtraction with each chunk that we have, and we put square, and we do the addition of all of those. So that's what we do here, and we show all the distances for each chunk. And then we have a threshold filter. The threshold filter, we will see if the pass off is rejected. The criteria is that distance 1.4. If it's the distance, the square L2 distance is greater than 1.4, is rejected. And then once we make that first step of filter again, from the 12 that we had before, we have now less than that, and then we do the near duplicate to remove all the overlapping answers, and from that we will have again even less items. And from those finals one, we will take just the top 4 in our case, and that's why we will send to Llama 3.2. That's the LLM that we use in this app as a context, and that's how we have the result. So we will test many questions, like the first question that I showed you here on Edge. This is the first question. We have those 3 answers. We will do the same using that script, just for you to see what happens in the backend, and you will see that the response should be the same. So let me run it. Yeah, let me just do. So this is a question here. Query, what should I know about prayer? And then it displays the collection, it displays the number of chunks. It embeds the question using the default function. And then we have that 384 dimension. The minimum value is this one. In our case, it's just 4 floating points. And then we have the max value, and we have the mean, and then we display the first 10 values. We could display the 384 values, but it would take a lot of space for us. And then we have retrieved the top 12 closest chunk for a stack. That's the first filtering. Second filtering, we take their distances. We saw that in the code, we take the distance of each. Right here, the distances. So when we take the distance, these are the chunk here that we have to retrieve from. You see, do not be anxious about anything. All of this, that's what we have to retrieve from the database. Those are the distances, and we have progress bar. The maximum is 2 about this bar, so you're able to see how the distances are, and they all pass because they are less than 1.4, our threshold. And then so we have already 2 filters here. The third one is that, so nothing has been rejected. The third one is that we check the near duplicate ones using the sequence matcher. I told you we don't want same sentences to come multiple times, so we remove the overlapping ones. But we see that there's nothing that is near duplicate in our case, so that's the third filter. And the fourth filter is that we take the top 4 chunks, and that's what we send to Llama 3.2 as context. And then we have the first one: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and in thanksgiving present your request to God. The second one is a very, very long text, but if we come here to Edge, the first one is, of course, the Philippians 4:6-7. The second suggests that prayer should be a regular part of our lives. Let's go back and see what here says. It has summarized this one. This one is like a 21-day prayer guide, and it says consecration. I present my body, my time, my talent as a living sacrifice. Pray together. This one is it's a summary of a lot of things, I guess. The next one too. Draw near to God and He will draw near to you. Let's go to Edge. You see the third one, that God draw near to us when we draw near to Him. So it's basically working. The second one, I guess it has summarized the chunk because it was too long and a lot of items. So basically it's working. It's working. We can change the question. I have a document here that is among the document that I have indexed, I have ingested in the ChromaDB. I can take some of those questions. I can take, for example, I will say, what is PH ministry? I will ask that question. Let me clear the console. I will come on top and change the question. I will save and I will run it again. So I will run here, it will give the answer, and we'll go on the Streamlight as well for graphical interface. You will see what is PH ministry. Of course, it gives the vector length, it's fixed, it's 384 dimension. We have those minimum values and stuff like that. And if you see the final response, the first chunk, it's a whole lot of things, but you can see the question, what is PH ministry, here with the answer. And then this was the second chunk, contain the question, how do I give to PH ministry, and like what does my tithe support? All of them is part of the same document basically. Now let's go to Edge and we ask the same question. The next question, when you ask a new question, it just keep adding the history until you clear the history yourself. Alright, these are the answers. The first one says PH Ministry is a spirit-filled, word-based church community passionate about helping every person discover their purpose, grow in faith, and make a lasting impact. So let's go to VS Code. You can see that in the first chunk, it's right here, lasting impact. Now let's go to Edge. The second chunk say Source 2 mentions that PH Ministry is led by senior pastor and a team of dedicated elders. Let's go to Edge, to VS Code. The chunk 2 is a registered nonprofit. Trying to see where it says that it's led by a group of pastors. Because here it talks about how you give, and then what is a connect group. Here it talks about connect group. I don't see what it says led by a pastor. Let's see. Oh, oh yeah. Is it part of the first one? Is it part of this first result? This one was really long. So here you see who leads PH Ministry. PH Ministry is led by our senior pastor and a team of dedicated elders. So it has splitted it. So let's go to Edge. The next one says it also stated that it's a non-denominational church celebrating the diversity of the body of Christ. And if you go to VS Code, I think here it shows the non-profit organization. I guess that's the answer it has used for that. And also chunk to yes, non-denominational church. Here it says PH Ministry is a non-denominational spirit-filled church. Yeah, so I believe everything is there and it's really working great. We can also test another question like, is there children ministry? I will search that question. I will make sure that in VS Code I'll ask that question. And also do same in Edge. Is there children ministry? So here it says, yes, according to source 4, PH Ministry has children's ministry options for kids and teenagers from the age of 0 to 12. And additionally, there's a separate program called PH Students. So let's see what it says. Let's see what it says in VS Code. In VS Code, you have that question here. Is there children ministry? Let's get the final answers. Source for the first source is still talking generally about PH ministry. Same for source 2. Source 4, let's see, it says yes, PH Kids runs during all Sunday services for ages 0 to 12. So I can tell that even though we have some top 4 element, is still the when all those chunks are given as context to the large language model, in our case that is Llama 3.2, it filters even again. So we have about 5 filters. It filters again to just take the relevant one to our question, that makes more sense, because as you can see we have source 3 that talk more about giving, source 2 giving, source 1 it talks about the ministry in general, and source 4 talks about the kids. So it has taken just the most relevant one. Now we would ask a question in French. Let's go to Edge. We say, qu'est-ce qu'un groupe? I will make error, yeah, de connexion et comment rejoindre un groupe de connexion. We want the response to be in French. You see that it can respond to many languages. Yes. So I will ask the same question. So here there's 2 types. Like Llama is a multilingual. It supports many languages, and also the embedding model of, oh, it couldn't find, that's really interesting. The embedding model of ChromaDB supports multi-language as well. I will try to ask qu'est-ce qu'un groupe de connect. I will try to ask a different way. When it says please speak to a pastor for guidance, that means he didn't find a response, yes, in the Chroma search. It's so that I made a lot of typos as well. Let's see how it works for this one. First of all, I will try the first one too in VS Code and see what happens in the backend. Okay, so I will type that question. So first of all, it embedded the question, of course, and then it rejected all of them. See, so he did the distances between what we got. These are the chunks that the embedding models had, and then when it did the sequence, like the squared L2 distances, it rejected them. You see, what is a connect group? It was correct. Connect groups are small and stuff like that, but because the squared L2 distances are over our threshold that we have set up, that is 1.4, they were all rejected. But they are relevant as well. So it's a proof that we can test more in our eval retrieval PY, test more questions and adjust our threshold according to languages as well. That's a possibility because they were all rejected, but they were also relevant. So if they are all rejects, so we have 0 chance that pass. So that's, of course, the top 4, there's nothing. And we have nothing as response. And the LLM used the fallback response, please refer to pastor. Let's see what the other response gave to Edge. It gave some answers to this one. Qu'est-ce qu'un groupe de connect? Because I've put connect and it says an English word. So of course it had some similarities and it had to give us an answer. And the LLM response was like un groupe de connexion est un petit groupe de 8 à 15 personnes qui se réunissent hebdomadairement pour étudier la parole, se confesser et faire vie ensemble. Let's check the same. Let's check the same with VS Code. This will be our last example for today. It's so good to test this in the background, so in the code, to see the process, to be able to adjust. Because if you only work with the graphical interface like Streamlight that we are using, sometimes things are not working, but you don't know why. But when you follow the process like I'm showing here, the pipeline, everything, you are able to detect what is wrong and you are able to adjust. Like for the first example in French that did not work, I saw that I could rewrite my eval retrieval depending on languages when it's maybe French, and review the threshold so that it will accept the most relevant. So this one we embed the question, of course. All of them are, from the source 2 and up they are above 1.4, that is the threshold, so of course they don't pass. But like the other ones, the other question, we see the connect group, and this one passes because it's 1.3, and then of course it will pass the near duplicate the duplication because it's the only chunk, and then top 4, that's the only one, and then we send that to the context to the LLM, that is Llama, and it displays our result. If you see the step 6, here is a fixed things that I've done because I wanted to check what's the cross-language embeddings. How does it work? So I took an English sentence and the French of it, and I query the 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 ChromaDB index vectors, and I also made the L2 square, the squared L2 distances, and we can see that a ministry teaching about prayer. Oh, what I did here is to compare these two, like English sentence, French sentence. I take their embeddings, and then to do the squared L2 distance for only them. And I see that is 1.4, so they are different. If they were really close, it will be close to 0. God's love and grace, l'amour et la grâce de Dieu is 1.1. They are different. Faith and hope in Christ, la foi et l'espoir en Christ, they are also different. So they are not that similar embeddings. My goal for this test was to check those English sentences and French sentences or any other language sentences, even though they are different in terms of embeddings, are they similar, are they close? But we can see that in terms of squared L2 distances, they are totally different. Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comment section if you have any ideas of what I can do next, and see you in the next video. Ciao!